meeting of the Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders is hereby called to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call roll?
Freeholder Bobadilla.
Present.
Freeholder Vice President Gill.
Here.
Freeholder Johnson.
Here.
Freeholder Jones.
Here.
Freeholder Luciano.
Present.
Freeholder Richardson, absent. Freeholder SEBOLD.
Here.
Freeholder TORO.
Present.
Freeholder President Timberlake.
Here. Thank you. Please stand to salute the flag. And I'm going to ask that Freeholder Bobadilla please lead us in the salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. I have before me a certification from the clerk that this meeting is indeed in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Madam Clerk, are there any transcripts to be approved?
Madam President, there are none.
Okay, are there any topics of discussion?
Madam President, there are none.
Okay, thank you. Then let us move to the public comment session for agenda items only. For the members of the public who are here this evening and for those who are at home watching on TV, tonight's meeting is a conference meeting when we'll generally only discuss resolutions that will be voted on at the board meeting that's following in a week. But tonight, however, we will vote on resolutions number 3, 4, 10, 12, 13, and 14. So at this point, if there's any members of the public wishing to speak on agenda items only, please come forward, state your name and affiliation for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak, monitored by the clock to my right. Okay, Madam Clerk, let the record reflect that no one is wishing to speak on agenda items only. If there's any members wishing to speak on any issue at all, any members of the public wishing to speak on any issue at all, please come forward, state your name and affiliation for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak, monitored by the clock to my right. Go ahead, I can hear you.
Good evening, Madam President and the Chosen Freeholder Board. Khalil Kettles on behalf of South Ward District 27 office. I come before you tonight, Madam Chairman and Madam President, in speaking on behalf of the county roads in the South Ward of Newark. We're requesting that county sheriffs patrol the county roads in the South Ward. Due to the recent acts of violence that's occurring within our city, we're asking that the sheriffs patrol it more, as well as we're requesting if the K9 units can be out, because somehow the ongoing drug issue is becoming a problem in the city of Newark. And we're asking for the K9 unit to be on patrol, as well as the sheriffs, to see if we can contract the violence that's going on in our city.
Thank you. And as is our practice, we'll respond to you in writing. Thank you so much for your courage for coming forward to the microphone.
Good evening, Madam President and freeholders.
Thank you.
Good evening again. My name is Joy Freeman. I come from Weequahic Park Sports Authority. I'm the executive director, and I'm bringing to the freeholders. We've been notified that some practice has been taking place against our contract in regards to us selling furniture on the property of Building 92, which is not correct. So we are bringing that to your attention. I have evidence and information relating to the letter that we responded back, acknowledging that we are not selling the furniture on the property.
Okay, thank you. And we'll collect the information. Thank you so much. Are there any other members of the public?
Yeah, for the record. Good evening, Madam President, chosen freeholders, Doug Freeman, Southward 44th District Leader. Come before you to talk about the low lights that's on Lyons Avenue and Chancellor Avenue by PSCG. These particular roadways is our passageway from outsiders to come into Newark. They're extremely too dark. We looked at several lights in different neighborhoods and we compared them. and the lights are lower wattage. So we're asking, because we have a lot of violence in that particular area, that we have an investigation with PSNG, the Utility Advisory Board from Essex County, to investigate, is this a common practice? So through you, Madam President, we're asking that we have this investigation and we understand and come to some type of conclusion whether or not these lights are being purposely dimmed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. Let me up here. Madam President, Ed Wadu, citizen. I would like to have through you, Madam President, clarification of number 6. A $4 million staffing and for parks, for maintenance of the park. Now, we have a great big park in Weequahic. Our fences are down. Our basketball baskets are, backboards have been down for over 6 months. What is this staffing for park maintenance? I'd like to have some understanding, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. And as is our practice, we will respond in writing. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak at this time?
Hello, Madam Chairman, President.
Got a lot of names there, huh?
My name is Leonard Ellis. I'm talking about the ongoing drug problem far as the drugs that's been in our area far as I'm trying to get it right. Doctors that's putting out these drugs far as the pills, the syrup, the dip cigarettes and all these things. Those are the issues that's going on in our community, and we're trying to see how we can combat that, because those are the issues that's really plaguing our community and causing the violence to go up. So I definitely want to address that and see how we can do something to combat that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your courage. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak?
Good afternoon. My name is Hardy Freeman, 134 Vassar Avenue, Newark, New Jersey. Good evening, Madam President and the chosen freeholders. I'm here very shortly to talk about the veggie day they had. I think it was November. It was before Thanksgiving at Weequahic Park. We had kids, we had some grown-up volunteers who had kids with no gloves, and I found out later they had no lunch designated for the kids. I went home and got some gloves, give each one of them that wanted gloves. I gave them gloves, and I found out that Freeholder Richardson gave food to the volunteers, and you all been doing a great job, but what I would like for Madam President to do is investigate and see is there any money for the kids when they do volunteer work. And this is no snare or nothing, but during slavery, the slave owner fed the people. He fed the workers. The workers wouldn't get no money, but he fed the people. We have people working in Weequahic Park, volunteer, with no lunch. So I'd like for you to investigate and see if they don't have no money and how we can get money. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak at this time? Okay, Madam Clerk, let the record reflect no one else is wishing to speak on any issue at this time. Do we have any ordinances or resolutions for introduction and first reading?
Madam President, we have none.
Me too.
Oh, Madam President, we have two. It helps to turn the page. Ordinance number 1, ordinance amending the Essex County District Solid Waste Management Plan, inclusion of the contract by and between Essex County Utilities Authority and Waste Management of New Jersey for the transportation and disposal of type 13, 23 non-processable portion, and 27 non-hazardous industrial waste, solid waste generated within Essex County, and direction of all waste types 13, 23, and 27 to the Waste Management of New Jersey transfer station in Elizabeth, New Jersey, pursuant to regulatory waste flow control.
Mr. Chilala, good evening.
Good evening, Madam President. I'll give a brief overview of this amendment to the District Solid Waste Management Plan. This amendment deals primarily with bulk waste. Bulk waste we're speaking about refers to furniture, mattresses, appliances, as well as construction debris. At this time, I will call up Mr. Elmer Herman, the Executive Director of the Utilities Authority, to go into further detail and answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. Elmer Herman, Executive Director of the Utilities Authority. This is a most important piece of legislation for our 22 municipalities and our commercial customers. It's the approval of a 5-year public bid contract which we, the Essex County Utilities Authority, awarded to Waste Management for the disposal of, as the administrator indicated, the main category being our type 13 bulky waste, non-processable waste. Basically, the items that you see on the at the curb that the municipalities pick up on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, appliances, furniture, furnishings, mattresses, and of course the 13C, which is the construction and demolition debris. As indicated, this is a very advantageous contract, and what this ordinance does, it approves the contract, it amends the solid waste management plan to include the contract in the plan, and it continues our regulatory waste flow control so that we can assure that we will have in Essex County environmentally sound and low-cost disposal costs. I'd like to thank the freeholders for their continuing efforts with us, because we have been able jointly through the administration, through the freeholders, through the Utilities Authority, to continue to provide the very low-cost disposal costs for solid waste. In fact, our costs in Essex County are the lowest costs in all of the northern counties of New Jersey. So I thank you for your participation in this and urge that this ordinance be approved. Of course, it has to have a second reading and a public hearing, and then it goes down to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection for their final approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that concise explanation. Mr. Polavecchio?
I have nothing that I could add to what Mr. Herman said, other than this is really just, it's the equivalent of our normal approval process for contracts, but because it's solid waste and involving the solid waste management plan, it has to go through a more strenuous process that does involve, as Mr. Herman said, ultimately approval by the state DEP. So it's the same service we've been providing, but it's a new service provider, and as the director said, it's at a very advantageous price.
Thank you. Mr. McInerney?
Just so I understand, this new contract will now direct the waste flow from where it's going now, from the Meadowlands Commission, which is now the Sports and Exposition Authority that's running this, to a different location, to the location in Elizabeth.
That is correct. As of January 1, 2016, and for 5 years, this type of non-processable waste will go to a very convenient facility, which is the waste management facility on Julia Street in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
And I know I asked you this before, just before the meeting, but could you just put on the record the tonnage that on average, we have been sending down to the Meadowlands Commission.
About 150,000 tons
Okay, thank
on
you
an
very-
annual basis.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Freeholders? Any questions or comments? Freeholder Luciano?
I just want to put on the record that I served for 4 years as a commissioner on the Utilities Authority under the director, Elmer Herman, who's here before us. I think he's done an excellent job on the Utilities Authority with the commissioners at securing such contracts, and I feel that everything that we've done with non-processable and processable waste here in Essex County is great, and hopefully they'll continue that good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I just add that Freeholder was spearheaded many of our environmental efforts that persist to date, and the untold story of the Utilities Authority's finances is that when we came on board, we had $100 million worth of bonded indebtedness, which we have reduced now to $50 million. And if we continue at the end of 2021, we will be at zero.
Wow. Thank you. Freeholders, any other questions or comments? Do you have a motion and a second to introduce this ordinance?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Freeholder Luciano,
I'll second.
seconded by Freeholder Bobadilla. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Bobadilla.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Gill.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Richardson absent. Freeholder SEBOLD.
Yes.
Freeholder TORO.
Yes.
Freeholder President Timberlake.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 2, establishing the year 2016 fee schedule of the Essex County Parks and Recreation Facilities.
Mr. Shalala, can you please explain?
Yes, Madam President. This is our renewal rates for 2016. What we've done is provided you with 2 packets. One is the entire packet of all of the fees throughout the park system, and the abbreviated version marked on the cover changes only that we will be talking about this evening. There are some minor changes that we're making for the 2016 fee schedule. They primarily occur at Cody Arena, our environmental center, at our golf courses, Turtlebag Zoo, and in our permit section. If you allow me, I will ask Mr. Josh Zates to come up to the microphone and go over the increases that the administration is proposing.
Good evening, Joshua Zates, Essex County Parks. Through you, Madam President, as the Administrator stated, there's some minor increases in specifically Cody Arena. Some things are going up approximately $1 for freestyle. Group instructions going up slightly, about $10 per. Same with our pink card, and then $25 for some of the skate rental fees. The environmental center, it's really just clarification in language. The fees aren't increasing. It's just we're putting per hour on the record for clarification. Same scenario with golf. The fees aren't really increasing too much. Just a lot of language clarification to make it easier for our patrons to understand the exact pricing. The zoo admissions are proposed to go up for $1. There's some additional increases in various program fees, some private education fees. Also on our rope courses, those are proposed to go up $1 for admission. Same with miniature golf, as well as the paddle boats. And then under permits, we're going up slightly in some of our Cherry Blossom Run registration, pre-registration, registration fee. If there's any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer.
Mr. Paulvecchio?
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Zates, I'm just looking at the golf fees, and on the side-by-side 2015 to 2016, I don't see any monetary increase, but you said there was some change in the language?
Yeah, most everything's a change in language, specifying some dates for early bird specials. Rates did change slightly. We're offering a new Veterans Day special for military personnel where they could get in for 50% off the price, specifically on Veterans Day. And then under schools, high school sponsored events as well as the valid ID rate are both increasing $1.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Freeholder Luciano?
Oh, thank you, Madam President. Again, through you and through the administrator. So my question isn't geared specifically towards any particular increase. My question is in general. You know, when you say $1, that doesn't sound like a lot. But when you look at it by percentage, it actually is a significant amount of an increase, percentage-wise. Correct, Ralph? Am I not mistaken?
Statistics are a funny game, but I can assure you that the increases that we are proposing are well in line with other attractions throughout New Jersey. Many of these rates are much cheaper. All in total, all of these increases will net the county an additional $200,000 in revenue. So all of the revenue increases we're proposing is $200,000 increase. If you look at, we'll probably on the 2015 revenue gross, probably hit 14 some odd million dollars. $200,000 increase is not that significant in terms of overall growth, in terms of fee increases. So you could look at statistics either way. $1 going from 10 to 11, yes, but $200,000 on $14 million is an argument you can make on the other side.
True, and I guess I can understand that, but maybe then the nature of my question is more geared towards a lot of our attractions are paid for with taxpayer dollars, and I just feel like at some point the taxpayers may feel like they're being treated unfairly because their taxes are going towards these exhibits in the zoo and the arena and so forth, but yet continually they're also asked to increase their admission fees and their skate rental fees. And you know, I'm just wondering, I get the fact that we need to generate revenue, but was there a necessary need to increase, like for salaries to be paid? Or is this just something that we wanted to kind of do because we're looking to, you know, increase projects, upgrade? I'm not really sure. You know, sometimes you increase a fee because you have to have maintenance performed for a specific project. So that's why I'm just trying to get a snapshot of why we're increasing things that are paid for through taxpayer dollars.
Well, I will say this, though. Our zoo is probably the only self-sufficient zoo on the East Coast. So in that regards, we're well ahead of the curve. The fee increases, we don't raise fees every year in every category. We'll raise them occasionally, and it's just the cost of maintaining our facilities. We want to have all pristine facilities. And in order to achieve that, you know, you do have to increase costs from here, from time in and time. It's a necessary evil. We try to keep that to the bare minimum. If you look at our golf, the fees have not been increased at all, with the exception of one category for $1. The adults, the seniors, everything stayed the same. In most of our fee schedule, if you look at the complete packet versus what is proposed, it's minuscule.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
welcome. You know, again, I like to put that stuff, this is where we vet things and get it on public record. And thank you, Madam President, for allowing me.
Any other questions or comments? Vice President Gill.
Thank you, Madam President. And first, let me apologize because I'm not able to open so this might be contained in the document, which I have a little trouble. I don't know if everyone else is, but is there, this is a question I've raised before and it might be contained, but is there a separate breakout for fees that are charged to for-profit sports leagues that rent our facilities?
Through you, Madam President, I do not believe so. I believe fees are across the board. The only fees that are distinguishable are in golf. If an organization happens to be a 501c3 nonprofit they get a special reduced rate. But there is not a distinguished rate for any other categories.
Right, okay. So if you're so if you're running a for-profit baseball league and you pay the same amount as a nonprofit or community group?
Through you, Madam President, yes, but there is a pecking order, a priority. The priority order are schools. And so depending on organized sports through the schools and the various school districts, they have top preference in terms of times and in terms of allotments of those permits.
Through you, Madam President, just for clarification, there are slight differences with permit fees for nonprofit versus profit, and then we can get you those rates if you'd like.
Through you, Madam President, so would for-profits be paying more money than the nonprofits?
Madam President, Dan Salvanti. Under the permit section, on athletic permits, you'll see on the day camps, which we classify as athletic events, as well as regular day camps, there's a profit rate of $700, nonprofit rate's $275. It's in your rate packet.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President. It just, and that all makes sense. I mean, it's just something that I think we should always just keep an eye on in terms of the explosion in for-profit sports leagues and their use of our facilities. And it's my opinion that those leagues should absolutely pay a premium to use our facility, as they, because we're, in a sense, helping to subsidize their businesses. And especially when they're competing with nonprofit and community groups and organizations for field use. So I would hope that we do everything we can to make sure, because the fields are at a premium, that for-profit athletic use is put at a premium, and that we cost that out, we price that out accordingly.
Thank you. Freeholders, any other questions or comments? Can you all help me catch this with my eyes? You said the swan boats are also going up? Did I hear that on the record?
Josh, could you come back to the mic, please?
And Rob, when was the last time the fees were increased while we're waiting?
For the swans?
No, just for everything overall.
Oh, every year the various categories are increased, not necessarily the same for these increases.
So every year something is increased, but not necessarily what we have in front of us.
Exactly.
Okay. Is there any type of discount for Essex County residents?
No, Madam President.
Is that something that's in talks to possibly be available?
Orange residents get a discount.
Joshua Zates, Essex County Parks. Madam President, the swan boats, both a two-person and a four-person, are increasing $1 this year.
Okay. And Ralph, is that something that's in talks to possibly happen, a discount for residents?
Through you, Madam President, I will have to bring that back and discuss it with council in terms of, in many of our facilities, they are Green Acre facilities, and many of the improvements are funded through Green Acres. So I'm not quite sure if we have the ability to offer such a discount, but rather than speak it off the top of my head, I'd rather have council look at it.
Thank you. And I'm asking because over the summer I had the opportunity to enjoy the swan boats myself, but one of my thoughts definitely was, man, this is kind of expensive. And now it's going up $1. And I think of myself in being fortunate as far as not having to spend a lot of money for a lot of people, but what if you're a family that is trying to go out and have a day? It becomes a very expensive day, to use some of the attractions that we have here at the county that are provided by taxpayer dollars. So that was the only reason why I asked that question. You know how I am. I just always want to make sure that people, working people, are okay and can continue to enjoy themselves and not be strapped.
I will say, though, in our golf courses, We do offer county residents a significant discount versus a non-county resident. But in terms of the zoo or paddle boats and Cody Arena, we'll have to take a look at that.
Okay, thank you. Freeholders, any other questions or comments? Okay. Do I have a motion and a second to introduce the ordinance? Moved by Freeholder Sebold. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second by Freeholder Toro. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Toro.
Yes.
Freeholder Sebold.
Yes.
Freeholder Richardson absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Gill.
Yes.
Freeholder Bobadilla.
Yes.
Freeholder President Timberlake.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have any ordinances or resolutions for listening purpose only?
Madam President, we have none.
Do we have any ordinance or resolution for second reading or public hearing?
Madam President, we have one ordinance number O-2015-00016, an ordinance appropriating $1,310,000 by the County of Essex for the acquisition of various capital equipment.
Thank you. I hereby declare the public meeting open for ordinance O-2015-00016 open. If there is any member of the public who would like to comment for or against this ordinance, please come forward and state your name and affiliation. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Okay. Let the record reflect that there is no members of the public wishing to speak at this public hearing on this ordinance. Mr. Polovecchio, do you have any questions or comments?
No, just if I'm correct, this was introduced earlier in November, and there's no bonds needed on this. I believe there's sufficient funds available for this capital equipment. It's just an appropriation. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam President, that is correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. McInerney?
No questions on this, Madam President.
Okay. Freeholders, do you have any questions or comments? Okay. Do I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing on this ordinance? Moved by Freeholder Toro.
Second.
Second by Freeholder Vice President Gill. Do I have the same mover and second to approve the ordinance? Yes. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Bobadilla.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Gill.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Richardson absent. Freeholder Sebold.
Yes.
Freeholder Toro.
Yes.
Freeholder President Timberlake.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Let's move to resolution number 1.
Resolution number 1. Department of Administration and Finance, Office of Human Resources contract with Aetna and County of Essex for health maintenance and prescription plan coverage for county employees, eligible retirees for 2016, amount not to exceed $98,718,770.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chilella?
Yes, Madam President. I will turn this over to Mr. Abramowitz, who spearheaded this effort with our broker and Aetna. Alan?
Alan Abramowitz, Human Resources Director. Madam President, this is the annual renewal for health benefits for 3,600 active and approximately 1,800 retired employees of the County of Essex. We bring this before the board every year. If you recall, last year we had a contract with Aetna that had a 13.5% cap. We negotiated through our broker and Aetna here an 11.5% increase for 2016. This will cover our prescription plan, our point of service with dental plan, point of service choice plan, traditional, HMO, POS 15, manager's dental, and Medicare PPO. If I may, I'd like to call up Joseph DeBella and Tammy Brown from Connor Strong to explain to the board how we got to this 11.5% increase for 2016.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Board of Freeholders. We appreciate your consideration. I'm Joe DeBella. I'm a managing director at Connor Strong in Buccaloo, and our firm has the privilege of working with the county as your employee benefits advisor. I've spoken in front of many of you in the past. My partner and colleague, Tammy Brown, is with me as well. And Tammy, on a day-to-day basis, works with Mr. Chilella, Mr. Abramowitz, and the administration on the day-to-day handling and management of the benefit program. And from Aetna, we have David Norton and Tracy Pingletor, who are involved on a day-to-day basis from the Aetna team. As Mr. Abramowitz mentioned, this is the annual process that we go through with the county to review the arrangement for employee benefits for the medical and the prescription drug program. The county currently spends an estimated $88 million on health care. That's your gross cost, prior to deducting any contributions with respect to Chapter 78. As we've mentioned in the past, the county's claim experience, which is the principal driver of what impacts your ongoing and future experience and claim costs, continues to run at a very high clip. Combination of many things: an aging workforce, a very generous level of benefit, a very costly area of New Jersey with respect to where many of your employees reside. And collectively, for this past period, to put this in perspective, for about every dollar in premium that Aetna collects, they paid out about $1.04 in claims. Very simple math. If any of us was in a business and we manufactured a pen and it cost us $1 to make the pen, but we only sold the pen for 85 or 90 cents, we'd have a losing proposition. And so the county's claim experience continues to be an issue. We work very diligently with Aetna and the administration on a series of things: health and wellness measures, disease management, intervention and interaction with employees and retirees. But the fact is, the claim experience ran exceptionally high this past year. We did, however, negotiate for the 2016 period a recap. We had a not-to-exceed amount that we had negotiated with the help of the administration, which was at 13.3%. Absent that rate cap, the county's actual increase likely would have been closer to about 25%. After several rounds of discussion, several updates to members of the Freeholder Board, meetings with the bargaining units, and a lot of very collaborative negotiations with Aetna, we were able to get them to reduce the fully insured increase to what has been reported at the 11.5% increase. Now, that certainly is better than 13.3. It yet, however, represents about a $10 million increase in cost from 2015 to 2016, which is an enormous amount. As an aside, as we do every year, we took the county's entire program out to the competitive marketplace and sought proposals from the competition to determine who would have the capacity to deliver equal to or better than benefits pursuant to your contracts at a better price. And all of the carriers we went to, Horizon, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna, United Healthcare, and AmeriHealth, none of them were able to come back with proposals that were at a better price, and in many instances, some of them declined altogether because of their ability to not be competitive in contrast to the current price. In addition, we also explored the possibility of taking the county self-insured. Today, the county has traditional insurance. The county pays a premium, and in exchange for that premium, Aetna pays the claims and bears the risk. We explored the notion of going self-funded, where the county would pay its claims expenses and buy catastrophic insurance protection. Even in that arrangement, the current Aetna fully insured proposal was more economically advantageous. The county also has an obligation pursuant to its various bargaining agreements to ensure that benefits are equal to or better than. So the county does not have the luxury that a private employer might have, which is to increase co-payments or deductibles and so forth in an attempt to deal with rising costs. So we deal with that challenge as well. So what is before you this evening is, in our professional judgment, a fair and reasonable renewal increase in light of all of the circumstances, in light of the negotiation, in light of the review of the competitive market, in consultation that the county administration had very directly with all of the bargaining units, And finally, I might add, after having reviewed the state health benefits plan. So if the county was to enter the state health benefits program, the rate of increase would be down by approximately $1.4 million. However, the level of benefit is not the same. The county cannot unilaterally force its bargaining units to go into the state health benefit plan without violating your collective bargaining agreements. Even if the county matched the level of coverage that the state plan offered, that increase of $10 million would be reduced by $3 million. That is primarily because the coverage in the state plan is not as generous as the county's plan. Lesser benefit, lesser premium. So we can report to you that we've exhausted every option, we've looked at every angle, we've collaborated with all the parties, and we believe what is before you this evening represents the best economic arrangement that fulfills your obligation to the bargaining units. So with that, that is our presentation. We appreciate your consideration, and either Ms. Brown or I would be delighted to answer any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Polavecchio?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. McInerney?
Thank you very much, Madam President. Let me first thank the administration for all the work they've done on this, and there is a lot of work, and also our consultants who, firsthand I know, have put a lot of effort into this. We did, though, it's my understanding that in certain areas of coverage, there were some tweaks. We talked about the traditional plan and some issues about making people in that plan stay within network. Otherwise, they would be reimbursed at Medicare rates. Is that's correct? So just if we're able to tweak that, can you explain why that doesn't violate?
Sure. Yeah, Mr. McInerney raises a good point. So there is what we don't consider to be a benefit change. This is a very important technical point. So today, employees of the county many are in a program that allows them to go in-network or out-of-network. And on an in-network basis, when a participant goes to a network provider, that network provider has agreed to accept a discounted price. That's why they're in-network. And that helps reduce our claims cost. On an out-of-network basis, the doctor or hospital doesn't have any contract with Aetna. They can charge whatever they like. And that's oftentimes what happens. So there is a process that is referred to as having a reasonable and customary fee schedule. Just because a doctor may charge $1,000 doesn't mean that that's a fair price for the procedure. So insurance companies have developed schedules that have been established to determine what most providers would charge for a particular procedure. If you didn't have that, doctors could charge whatever they like. And if the benefit plan was to provide, say, 70 or 80% of that escalating number, well, every doctor would be out of network and they would charge whatever they would like. So it has been policy for many, many years that the county's out-of-network plan has a reasonable and customary schedule. Well, what's reasonable and customary is certainly arguable from one to another. What Mr. McInerney might think is reasonable and customary, I might think is not. So it has always been established by the insurance carrier. And one of the things that Aetna recommended to us is that we adjust the out-of-network fee schedule to the same schedule that the United States government uses for Medicare. Medicare is perhaps one of the largest payers of health benefits in the country. And so Medicare has a schedule that they pay providers from. They've determined this is what we think is reasonable and customary. And so we decided that we thought the Aetna recommendation was a good one, because who could argue that Medicare, one of the biggest payers, if Medicare has determined that a particular schedule is reasonable and customary, and that's what they're using to reimburse providers in the Medicare federal program, we believe that to be fair and reasonable versus an arbitrary schedule that an insurance company may use or tweak from time to time. Now, admittedly, there will be differences between the insurance company's historic fee schedule and the Medicare schedule. However, it was our recommendation that it would be very fair and very balanced to be able to argue to any party that Medicare would be unreasonable, that Medicare would not be fair and judicious with respect to how they determined the schedule. And so that recommendation was implemented as a way to contain out-of-network costs and ensure the schedule was reasonable and customary. And Mr. McInerney's part two of his question is a very significant one. Why can you do that but not change other benefits? The equivalency clause in your bargaining agreement says that benefits need to be equal to or better than co-payments, deductibles, the co-insurance. If the co-payment for an office visit, what's the common co-pay? $10. If the co-pay for an office visit to a doctor was $10, the county couldn't unilaterally say, we're going to increase it to $15. That would be a violation of your bargaining agreement. But what is reasonable and customary changes every year. Every year that schedule changes. If the county said we could never change the reasonable and customary schedule, we need to lock it in at what it was at 1987 when we started the plan, well, the schedule would never be reasonable and customary because there have been increases in price, in utilization, in CPI, and so forth. So by adopting this schedule, we are not changing anyone's benefit. We are merely instituting a schedule that we believe on a go-forward basis will be more reasonable and customary for the participants and to help hold the line on costs for the county. That is the kind of alteration that can be made. It is not a change in benefit. Unfortunately, the county cannot make other changes like just unilaterally increasing deductibles and copays. I hope that is helpful, Mr. McInerney.
Let me ask a couple more questions. One in particular would relate to some of the Affordable Care Act charges that we saw implemented in our plan when the law first came into being.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the surcharge, but it was at least about $2.2 million. And I'm sure Tammy might remember that. I don't know.
It is called the reinsurance fee.
Okay. Is that something that is applicable also to a self-funded plan?
It is. So there are 3 taxes that are embedded in an employer's benefit program pursuant to the Affordable Care Act. 2 of the 3 apply whether a plan is insured or self-insured. The 3 taxes. One is called the patient research fee. The second is called the reinsurance fee. And the third is called the health insurance fee. The third, the health insurance fee, only applies to plans that have true health insurance and are fully insured. That tax is an estimated 3.5%, give or take, of the employer's premium. Because the county has a fully insured plan, that tax applies. If you had a self-funded plan, it would not. What's interesting is, when we did our self-funded pro forma, even if we took out that 3.5% tax, the exposure of being self-insured, because we negotiated the cap with Aetna, and they really needed a 25% increase, but we got it down to 11.5%, even including the value of stripping out that extra tax, it's still cheaper to be in the fully insured plan.
Okay. So just so I understand, the tax that I made reference to that you articulated much better than me, that does not apply to a self-funded plan. However, what you're saying is, despite the fact that it doesn't apply, it still was not competitive with what we're seeing before us today.
That is correct. Okay. That is very correct.
All right. Given that when you looked also at the state plan, I think when we did have discussions, the one that at least that I was present for, I guess I came away with the feeling that it seemed like it was close to what we're looking at today, and that one of the issues going forward, not forgetting the issues about our negotiated collective bargaining agreements, that is something that we want to take a closer look at and possibly explore in the near future, and it's possibility that that may be more competitive in the years to come.
We do. Quite frankly, the state health benefit plan has to be looked at every single year. The county executive personally appealed to the leadership of all of the various bargaining units at meetings that Tammy and I and the administration participated in, and said to them, let's go to the state plan. And unfortunately, at the time, the bargaining units did not feel they could make the commitment to do that. It was a very short window of time, admittedly, but they did not feel they could make the commitment because of the plan changes. The plan changes are not substantial. There are about 60 employees in a traditional plan. That is an old-fashioned style plan that provides a very generous level of coverage. One does not have to go in or out of network. Their benefit plan pays for most services regardless of where they go. That population will be impacted. The state does not have that kind of a plan. And there are other minor nuances throughout. The bargaining units did not feel they could make that commitment. We have strongly encouraged, and the county executive has insisted, every single year we have to look at the state plan. And we will continue a dialogue with the unions beyond the renewal. The other final commentary I would make, and it isn't to end this on a downer, since we've talked about the Affordable Care Act, many of you have heard a provision called the Cadillac tax. Cadillac tax is a provision in the Affordable Care Act that will kick in January of 2018. This is a 40% excise tax on what are considered to be high-cost plans, as entirely and solely determined by the federal government. They've established a cost, and for plans that are in excess of that cost, a 40% excise tax will apply. If that tax took effect today, the county would have had an additional tax of $16.8 million on top of the $98.7 million you'll be spending just to pay the premium. So the reality is we have to work with the bargaining units in good faith to devise plans that are not as costly. It will be impossible for the county to afford to pay another $16.8 million, and then that number goes up every year. So we are working with the administration on approaches to deal from a bargaining perspective with some of these plans. And Mr. McInerney's point is right on. State plan is going to be top of the list. And if that's a cheaper option in 17, that's where we're going to recommend that we go.
Since you brought up the Cadillac tax, could you, what is today considered, if you had, if the law was implemented today, what would that amount be? Is there any way to guess what that amount would be?
There is. So we actually ran the mathematics. That's how we calculated the $16.8 million. From memory, the current measurement from the federal government is $10,200 for single coverage and $27,500 for family coverage. That's the gross cost. That's the employer's cost. That's any contribution from the employee. So in my example of the $27,500, if a program costs $27,600, that extra $100 is taxed at a 40% rate to the employer. Obviously, the employer isn't just going to absorb all that cost. In your case, it becomes an additional Chapter 78 contribution. So this is a tax that impacts not only the employer, but it also impacts your employees.
I guess if my mind, and again, maybe this is a little outside the scope of the contract right now, but I am curious about this. How do we intend to get that amount down below that $27,000 threshold?
So it's a combination of things. Low-cost options, engagement with the bargaining units. You know, in fairness, the bargaining units in the county, they recognize this is a problem. They're not naive to this. On a statewide and a federal basis, organized labor is very concerned about this. Organized labor has spoken out against the president on this particular aspect of the ACA because of its punitive nature. So I think we're going to see cooperation between the bargaining units and the administration to deal with the issue, because your employees will not be able to afford to pay the premium. It will be impossible. So lower cost plans, hopefully some good faith bargaining, and then continued efforts around health and wellness and population health. It will not be easy. It will not be easy to get there.
Okay, thank you very much. The last point to the Board of Freeholders, when we look at this number here, keep in mind that this is not net of the employee contribution, and also does not include reimbursements in our welfare program expenditures that we get from the state of New Jersey, as well as the hospital center, which we get as part of the indirect cost plan, which allow us to get, reimbursed. I don't know what this nets down to, but it's fairly a significant decrease than the gross amount of 98 million. Of course, that stays, fairly constant from year to year, but just to let you know that there are some offsets to help decrease this amount from $98 million down. Thank you very much.
We appreciate the consideration, freeholders. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. McInerney. Thank you. Freeholders, any questions or comments? Bill Luciano?
Just a question, and I think I know the answer, but I want to put it on public record. We talked about 60 or so individuals who probably would be the most reluctant of all to go into the state health benefit plan. Is it not my understanding that most of those individuals, if not all of them, are retired, Ralph? No.
No, I think the 60 are active. I think we have about 3. I'll ask Alan to address that.
Through Madam President, there are 2 different categories of people in traditional plan. The 60 that he referred to were active employees. There's approximately 220 that are retired employees that are under what we call the Gower employees. They have a contraction. They won a lawsuit back in the late 1970s that we are committed to, that we would have to carve them out completely. There's no way they can be included in this whatsoever.
Right. So that's probably our biggest obstacle, right, Alan?
It's one of the
getting
obstacles.
around them.
One of the obstacles. And just to further one of Joe's points here, we're planning to start in January meeting with the collective bargaining units again to position ourselves for 2017 if we were to make a change to the state health benefits. This way everyone has enough time. We'll take out information to our employees to see if they think this is something they want to vote with their membership as a union member and go to the state health benefits, because it's an all or nothing. If one union declines, we can't go.
Correct. All right, thank you, Madam President. And through you, I know that you, Alan, specifically, and to Ms. Brown, who I've known for years now, have worked very hard on this. And, we just hope that we can transition eventually into the state health benefit plan, which will save us money. And don't worry, I'm sure there'll still be plenty of work for Connor Strong, because that transition is not easy. I know that may take some time and a lot of legwork, but definitely before the Cadillac tax. That's going to be a cold day in Essex County if we're going to have to come up with that kind of money. Thanks, Madam President.
Thank you. Freeholders, any other questions or comments? Freeholder Bobadilla?
First, this number, 98 million, reflects, for lack of better terms, the cost of the health of our employees and the retirees, correct?
That does, sir, yes.
All right, but at the same time, looking at the documentation, we're only allocating $50,000 to wellness programs. And I don't think that changed much from the previous contract. And I'm wondering, why is that the case? Because it's been proven over and over again that if you work on chronic disease management, wellness programs, nutrition, you actually create a population with better health metrics. So why are we only allocating such a small amount?
Freeholder, if I may, I'd like to introduce Tracy Piglator from Aetna. What I would say to you before her comments are that reference amount you're referring to is specifically earmarked just for health and wellness. That does not, however, reflect all of the population health and wellness initiatives that happen on a day-to-day basis by Aetna. And I think Tracy can comment on some of those more specifically.
Great. Thank you, Joe. And Madam President, Board of Chosen Freeholders, thank you so much for having us, and thank you for your business. And so I do want to talk to you about the programs that we have in place right now. So you're talking about the budget that is there for wellness activities, but what is also built into your Aetna plans are case management, which really refers to when a member is inpatient, looking at utilization, discharge planning with them, making sure they have the proper methods in place for when they are transitioning home. We also have disease management. One thing that I did want to talk about tonight is a new program that we've put in place this year to hopefully counteract some of the cost increases that we're seeing around of diseases in general, but it is our Aetna In Touch Care program, and it is a more enhanced program around case and disease management. So it's really looking at targeting those members at greatest risk and giving them the best opportunity for better health outcomes. There are more algorithms that run through this. It is looking at really a single nurse model for disease management and case management. So it's really identifying those members when they need care and really helping them at that point. So that is also an enhancement that's part of the program that started this year and will carry through the 2016 plan year as well. So,
do you have percentages of the number of participants in that program?
I do not have those yet for you in the new program, but we can definitely get that for you. What I do have tonight too, if we wanted to look at, is some of our disease management, or disease prevalence rates that we're seeing within your population. And when we look at this year over year, we are seeing increases every year. We have over almost 25% of the population has hypertension. So it's really looking at targeting some of those members more closely too. So. Any other questions?
You know, to the administration, I mean, this past year, it's visual. You know, I've seen some of the measures in the county wellness programs, and just alone in May, you know, a total of 1,400 pounds plus were lost by some of the participants. I just feel like that we're not bridging that gap. You know, we're looking at the cost, you know, which is the end piece. And we have the chronic diseases, and we're not really filling in that gap all that well, and we're not encouraging, you know, well, again, we've come a long ways, Ralph, but we're not engaging and accessing the staff members as much as we should.
And definitely what the county has done, I have to say, your employees this year have done a great job with starting up the wellness program, and you referenced the weight loss program that occurred this year, and they are working on programs moving into 2016, utilizing some of those wellness dollars, that $50,000 that you referenced. I do hear what you're saying about bridging that gap between this wellness program, and you want to reach those members before they're coming into those disease states that we're talking about, right? And there are programs that are available for that do require additional funding, if that is something. Yeah, and go ahead. Yeah.
What I can comment on Freeholder, and some of this is not always visible, a big chunk of the cost oftentimes are dependents. It's someone's spouse.
State your name and affiliation for the record? Both of you, actually.
Tracy Pingalore, Aetna.
And then when you jump back on the mic, you have to do it
sorry.
again.
Forgive me. Joe DeBella from Connor Strong. So, Freeholder, in many instances, and the administration sees this, if a participant is identified through their claims as potentially being diabetic, they get an outreach. They get a phone call. They're contacted. When someone is pregnant, based on their medical claims, they're contacted by a nurse case manager to walk them through the prenatal process and make sure they've been scheduled for the appropriate appointments with their OBGYN. They're taking prenatal vitamins. When someone's been discharged for a very costly claim, they're assigned a nurse case manager. So what Aetna has been doing rather successfully is trying to identify individuals based on their claim patterns that they may be candidates for being reached out to for more intervention from nurse care managers to get them someone that can help them. Your point is spot on that more needs to be done in the area of wellness and prevention, and to get employees more actively involved. And that is something, when we were at Labor Roundtable more recently, excuse me, that we appealed to the heads of the various bargaining units. And we said, look, if we're going to lick this issue, the county cannot withstand $8 and $10 million increases every year. It's not possible. We're going to need your help, because your members will be much more interested and welcoming to these kinds of programs if you get behind them and you adopt them. And so we did get a commitment that the labor group was interested in partnering with the county to really push in 2016 more partnership around health and wellness. Because if they stand behind it, we think there'll be better participation.
I think that we should have a special session just to, brief the freeholders, and they can ask their questions regarding it. There was a session in which I did attend that the county executive led, and it was regarding the collective bargaining, and all the unions were there. And that was certainly a topic of discussion. What you're talking about is being preventive and getting in front of health issues instead of doing something about them afterwards and thereby driving up costs, right? But I think that maybe we should do, you know, a special meeting for freeholders to ask questions. All right?
Can I just ask one last item, please? Yeah,
Freeholder Bobadilla?
Thank you, Madam President. Would it be possible if the Freeholder Board can have access to the results of the wellness survey that you sent out in June once that's concluded?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No question.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam President.
Freeholders? All right. Freeholder Vice President Gill?
Thank you, Madam President. Just comment and a question, and just wanted to clarify and make sure I understood correctly. We would have potentially had a savings of we would have had a savings this year if we were able to opt into the state health benefits plan, but as a result of the plan not offering the same level of service and benefits, there was no way to possibly reach that agreement with our bargaining units.
That is correct, Freeholder.
But thank you. And so next year, though, as a result of the implementation is 2017 of the Cadillac tax or
2018?
Oh, 18. So in advance of the implementation of the Cadillac tax, the state health benefits plan, though, then very much does become a potential option based on this dire need to drive down costs.
If I may, Madam President, still Joe DiBella from Connor Strong. I think, Freeholder, the answer is yes. I think the state plan will always be an option. Candidly, if there are going to be modifications to the level of benefit, then the state plan isn't the only option. Then other private market plans, like an Aetna plan, for example, would continue to be very favorably positioned. The challenge that the county has today is the equivalency clause is such that this is the level of benefit and it can't be changed. And as Mr. Abramowitz points out, based on the rules of the state health benefit plan, if you had, I think there may be 24 or 25 bargaining units, you did a roll call and said who's willing to go to the state plan or who's willing to change coverage with Aetna. If there were 24 bargaining units and 23 said yes and 1 said no, you can't go to the state plan. So that's the challenge. So there needs to be a unilateral engagement of all of the bargaining units to simultaneously get a consensus around changing the design so that you can go to the state plan or we can change coverage with Aetna or with someone else. Until that happens, that's a challenge the county will continue to have.
Thank you. And we will be organizing something so that we can ask all of our questions to you all and get full responses back, because this could take a while. It is a very complex situation. However, one of the most poignant things that the county executive did say during those conversations was if we were to continue, that it's something that could possibly put us in dire financial constraints, and the word bankruptcy was used. Now, and to me, that's something that's very poignant, and I think that a lot of the union members that were there also agreed. Freeholder Vice President Gill, one last one. I want to wrap this up, and this can be done in a special session.
Sure, Madam President. Just a more broader question. The state of New Jersey's actual enrollment in the ACA. I might see if I can phrase this question correctly. Some of the most recent things out there saying that we're lagging behind as a state of folks who are uninsured and who are enrolling in the ACA, and we know that as a state, our governor opted to not take advantage of the federal enrollment as related to the ACA. What would increased enrollment in the ACA potentially mean to the overall situation and challenge that's in front of us over the next 3 years in terms of our overall cost?
If I may, Madam President, it would have no impact on the county. The county's benefit plan is based solely and exclusively on your 3,000 active participants and your 2,000 retirees. And all of your costs are predicated on the claims expenses just for your population. Now, there are taxes that apply to every employer that are built in the ACA. So what's happening in the individual marketplace, from an exchange perspective, if you will, in New Jersey and other states, really does not impact the county's dilemma with respect to cost. There really are two separate issues. And what I would also feel compelled to mention is that I think Aetna's been a really good partner for the county. And in the end, based on the county executive's ability to negotiate, and there's no one that can negotiate like he can, we were able to come to an agreement with Aetna. And I do feel compelled to suggest they have been a very good partner for the county in light of some of the economic losses that they have sustained from a financial perspective, and their willingness to continue to really work and partner with the county. And I do feel compelled to acknowledge they've been a strong partner and a big supporter of the county with respect to the administration of the benefit program.
Thank you. All right. Please list it, Madam Clerk. Thank you so much for taking the time to come out to explain to us.
Thank you.
And let's move to resolution number 2.
Resolution 2, Office of the County Council Amendment to Professional Service Agreement to provide legal services regarding Essex County Correction Officers PBA Local 328 et al. Versus County of Essex et al. Docket number ESX-C-191-12, representing the County of Essex and Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Essex, Chiesa, Shanigan, and Giamatasi, adding an amount not to exceed $25,000.
Mr. Shalala?
Yes, Madam President. This is an amendment to an existing contract. We're adding $25,000 to this contract. This is a lawsuit that stems out of the Essex County Corrections Office, PBA Local 382, versus the County of Essex. Basically, their complaint is regarding the county's use of Delaney Hall.
Okay. Mr. Polavecchio?
Just briefly, without getting into the case itself, this is an existing lawsuit, as the administrator suggested. I did speak with county council about this. There's been some seriously increased discovery going on. So there's been some, when discovery, meaning the gathering of information, the depositions, interrogatories, things of that nature, start to heat up and they become contested, then lawyers have a lot of work to do. And that's my understanding why this anticipated increase in expenses has come up for the end of the year.
Okay. Mr. McInerney?
No questions on this, Madam President.
Freeholders? Any questions or comments? Okay, it's pretty straightforward. Madam Clerk, please list it. Let's move to resolution numbers 3 and 4, in which the administration is requesting that we take action.
Resolution 3, the Office of the Sheriff Contract Award to Auto Clear, the lowest responsive and responsible bidder to furnish, deliver, and install 2 new Repiscan 618XR machines, amount not to exceed $32,400. Resolution 4, Office of the Sheriff's approval of the acquisition of a year 2000 Bluebird bus from the Township of Fairfield, amount $5,000.
Thank you. Mr. Chella, can you please explain resolutions 3 and 4 and why you are requesting formal action?
Yes, Madam President. The scans that we are looking to purchase through the Sheriff's Department, these are the scans that are used, metal detectors that you'll see as you walk into public buildings. These 2 new scans will be installed at 18 Rector Street. We are in the process of opening up the entrance area, the waiting area, and by having 2 scanning machines, we'll be able to bring clients into that building in a much quicker fashion. There is a long lead time item on this order, and that is why we're asking for action on this item tonight. Resolution 4, the Township of Fairfield has no further use for a 2000 Bluebird bus. They are offering it to the county for $5,000 under the fair market cost of that vehicle, and this vehicle will be utilized by the sheriff to augment his existing fleet. in the event of one of his buses do go down. And we did see this happen, I think, earlier in the year when they did have some buses out of service, and we had to come back to this board for an emergency repair on one of them. So this is a acquisition to the sheriff's fleet that is well needed. And this will be paid out of the sheriff's trust account.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Paul Vecchio?
No questions.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders? Questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. I do remember that issue, Mr. Chalala, and you know, it's good to see that we're doing something to be practiced so it doesn't happen again. Do you have a mover and a second to take 3 and 4?
I'll move it.
Moved by Freeholder Vice President Gill. Second by Freeholder Jones. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Bobadilla?
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Gill?
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Jones?
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano?
Yes.
Freeholder Richardson, absent. Freeholder SEBOLD?
Yes.
Freeholder TORO?
Yes.
Freeholder President Timber?
Yes.
So moved.
Please move to resolution number 5 and read.
Resolution 5, Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, resolution in accordance with the ordinance number O-2004-00015, waiving the reference to 1998 budget levels for the annual 2016 release and acceptance of the allocation of funds from the Essex County Recreation and Open Space Trust Fund.
Mr. Chalala, can you please explain?
Yes, Madam President. Every year, the administration comes back to this Freeholder Board. That was a direct recommendation of your Freeholder Council back in 2005, that we come back and ask for a waiver. Originally, when this open space fund was approved, it referenced a 1998 budget level. We all realize that budgets change from time to time, and so this mechanism, we come back to the board for your approval to waive that 1998 budget level and bring it up to what the current budget level is for the upcoming year.
Okay. Madam Clerk, can you also read 6 and 7?
Resolution 6, Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, resolution authorizing the release and acceptance of the allocation of funds from the Essex County Recreation Open Space Trust Fund to continue park maintenance and staffing for year 2016, amount not to exceed $4,488,122. Resolution 7, Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, resolution authorizing the release and acceptance of the allocation of funds from the Essex County Recreation and Open Space Fund for 2016 various park improvements, amount not to exceed $125,000.
Okay, Mr. Chalala, can you please explain those two?
Yes, Resolution 6, as part of the open space fund that is collected every year, part of those funds go toward the maintenance of our parks facilities. This particular resolution speaks to funding 55 maintenance workers in our park system. I would like to tell you that last year the allocation was $4,367,224, and we all realize that these costs covered the salaries and fringe and overtime of those 55 workers. Resolution 7 speaks to the Open Space Trust Fund allotment of about $125,000 for various as-needed capital improvements on an as-needed basis for rehabilitation projects in the park. We'll see throughout the course of the year on an as-needed basis.
Mr. Polavecchio, any questions 5, 6, and 7?
Just quickly on number 5, Mr. Chalala went into it, but and it's something that the board has done on an annual basis for the last 10 or 11 years, but since some freeholders haven't seen it before, I thought it's worth going into a little bit. When the Open Space Trust Fund was created in, I guess, 1997 or 1998, there was a provision in it that allowed for the use of those trust fund dollars to supplement the Parks Department budget for maintenance costs in subsequent years, but only if the Parks Department budget remained at that 1998 level. after a couple of years, it seemed that this was unworkable, and in 2004, the board decided to amend that ordinance to permit a waiver. In other words, to waive the obligation to maintain those 1998 budget levels while still being able to use the trust fund dollars to supplement for park maintenance. And the board at that time thought it was important that it comes back on an annual basis so we could always take a look at it. So it's not just an automatic right to use those trust fund dollars, but every year that we can take an independent look at it. So give some measure of fiscal control to this board while also recognizing the practicality and the needs of maintaining our park system.
Thank you. Mr. McInerney?
Yes, I had been involved when this first came to the board back at that point in time. And to be honest with you, given the 1998 levels of the budget, I'm questioning whether or not the board really, at some point, shouldn't review this to see if it's obsolete.
Thank you. Noted. Freeholders, any questions or comments? Freeholder SEBOLD?
Thank you. Item 5, 6, 7, also item 8 and 9 were all discussed at our Open Space Trust Fund Advisory Board meeting on November 9th. And everyone was in total agreement with all of the plans discussed here tonight. And I want to make sure, Mr. McInerney, that you were familiar with the allotment of the funding, which we were going to do, and everything that Mr. Prolovecchio said and you said is true in terms of the past, in terms of what we did, and we need to do this every single year, and perhaps we can look at it and see for the future exactly what needs to be done.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Freeholders? Freeholder TORO?
So for the record, it's my understanding that the fund right now has 5.3 million, and we're expending 4.488, so roughly we'll be left with $1 million. Is that correct?
Well, not really, because there are funds that might have been allocated but not have been expended. There also is at every quarter, like taxes are collected, that fund gets replenished. So I can get you a daily or a current balance of that fund. It might even be in your minutes.
Right, and I see that 3 million are expected in mid-November. Also, my second question, Madam President, is the 55 positions for Resolution 6. Are those current employees?
Yes, Madam President, they are current Essex County employees. They are not new employees.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Freeholder Luciano?
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, first let me say, I know sitting in the back is our Parks Director, who has been with us now for, what, 20 years, Dan? I know that they do a great job, and this year, particularly through the Open Space Trust Fund and through capital funds, we were able to secure fixing up and upgrading many of our parks here in Essex County, which I was very happy to support. I just want to put on record, though, for our Parks Director and for Ralph Chaella and Mr. Sanjeev Varghese back there, that for the last 3.5 years, I have pushed for a dog park in my district, which we do not have. I don't know why it continues to fall on deaf ears, but I have secured a location in West Caldwell. That's the entrance of the Lenape Trail. I hope that you can speak to the big guy down there on the 4th floor and let him know that I'm still in full support of this dog park and this entranceway to the Lenape Trail. And I also would like to see a park in the hometown that I grew up in, that I also represent, of Livingston, that park called Riker Hill Park, to have maybe some workout stations and some hiking trails, because right now we have absolutely nothing going up there. It's the highest point in Essex County. I think it's beautiful. No knock to the artists that are up there doing ceramics, but if you're a general member of the public and you go up there, other than twiddle your thumbs, I don't know what you're supposed to do. So I'd like to see, something that would make that more of a park. I mean, right now I think it's just open space, but I know we call it a park. I don't even know if there's any benches up there, to tell you the truth. When I go up there, I have to sit in my car. So if we could just take those, suggestions into consideration this year, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Freeholders, any other questions? Freeholder Jones?
Well, since people are bringing about, Madam President, of the open air market as it relates to your parks, I've heard from the citizens and members of the Weequahic Park that some of the things that was promised to them when I first came on board, in terms of holes in the fence and paving and whatever that is neglected in that particular park, and of course Irvington Park too, because if you ride, you can see. No local person did that. These are people who know how important or valuable is wrought iron, and they just cut it off. You had to have a machine because a child or just a person walking could not lift those fences because they're too hard, or whatever you would call it. But what I'm saying is, since there is money out there at the open air, that we would put Weequahic Park and Irvington Park on that list of some of the improvements that was promised to them early on in the year.
Thank you. Freeholders, any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, please list resolutions number 6 through 7. Let's move to resolutions number 8 and 9. Please read.
Resolution 8, Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, authorization to use the Essex County Recreation and Open Space Trust Fund to fund the Turtleback Zoo Condor exhibit design services in the amount not to exceed $90,000. Resolution 9, Department of Public Works, Division of Engineering, Professional Services Agreement, provide engineering, design, and construction management services for a Condor exhibit, raise a bison, walkaway, and other improvements at Turtleback Zoo, French and Perello Associates, $90,000.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Polavecchio.
No questions for me.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions, Madam President.
Freeholders? Okay. And Freeholder SEBOLD, as she already stated, this was discussed in her committee. Please list it, and let's move to resolution number 10, in which the administration is asking that we take formal action.
Resolution 10, Department of Public Works, Division of Engineering, authorization to pay Sparwick Contracting for the emergency repairs to Hoover Avenue Bridge, Bloomfield, New Jersey, $49,582.30. And Madam President, did you say resolution 12 and 13 also?
No, just 10.
Okay.
Just 10. Mr. Shalala?
Yes, as this board recalls, we did have to declare an emergency at the Hoover Avenue Bridge. Back on September 25th, during a routine maintenance of that bridge, Public Works noticed a breach in the structural deck of the bridge, and it was determined that it was a safety issue and the bridge needed to be shut down immediately. We did notify the Freeholder Board, contractor mobilized on September 28th. The work was completed on October 15th. The road was open to public on the October the 19th with the restricted weight limit of 15 tons. The total cost of this repair bill was $49,582.39. This resolution will allow the county to now pay this emergency repair bill.
Thank you. Mr. Polavecchio?
No questions.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions, Madam President.
Freeholders? Freeholder Toro?
I just want to thank Engineer Sanjeev for working on this quickly, ensuring the safety of our residents by repairing this bridge. Thank you.
I second that. Freeholders, any other questions or comments? Okay, do I have a mover and a second?
I'll move.
I'll second.
All right, moved by Freeholder Toro, second by Freeholder Sebold. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Toro.
Yes.
Freeholder Sebold.
Yes.
Freeholder Richardson, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Gill.
Yes.
Freeholder Bobadilla.
Yes.
Freeholder President Timberlake.
Yes,
So moved.
thank you. Please move to resolution number 11 and read.
Resolution number 11, Department of Public Works, Division of Engineering, Professional Services Agreement to provide engineering environmental services for the underground storage tanks remediation at various Essex County locations. AECOM Technical Services, amount not to exceed $124,172.
Thank you. Mr. Shalala?
Yes, Madam President. This is an annual contract that we do let out. We do have representatives of this company with us this evening to address our underground storage issues. Countywide, we do have a number of them, and if I can call them up to the microphone so they can address any questions that the board may have, and just give a brief overview of their scope of work.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the Board of Chosen Freeholders. Srini Kota with AECOM Technical Services.
Thank you. Can you please explain a bit?
Yeah, the scope of the services, what's being proposed for this contract are the 3 underground storage facilities, which are the maintenance garages at Fleet Management and Cedar Grove, Wickwike Park, and Branchbrook Maintenance Garage, which had been impacted by underground storage spills. And there's been remedial investigations which have been conducted. And as required by the NJDEP Site Remediation Reform Act, there's a need to provide services of a licensed remediation professional to guide through the remediation processes and to meet the timely time frame of remedial actions as required by the NJDEP.
Thank you. Mr. Polavecchio?
Yes. Sir, have these 3 storage tanks been decommissioned, or are they still active?
The sites are active. They have active storage tanks, but these tanks which I'm referring to are these tanks which have been removed. And at the time of the removal, it was observed that there were some impacts to the soil and groundwater.
Okay. So this is now, the tanks themselves are not in operation. It's the residue that was left behind in the contamination that's being treated.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McInerney?
When you say there's been, well, let me put it this, has there been wells dug for purposes of testing?
Yes, there have been monitoring wells installed at all these locations. There have been soil boring samples collected to delineate the extent of soil and groundwater contamination at all these sites.
And what's basically the diagnosis? What type of contamination is there?
For most part, the tanks, the underground storage tanks were holding gasoline fluid, but in some places there were also diesel which were stored in some of the tanks. So it's primarily petroleum hydrocarbons.
And is that at a high level of toxicity as far as the DEP is concerned?
Yes, it's not toxicity is an issue, but it's more trying to meet the remedial standards, soil and groundwater standards of the DEP.
So is it going to require actual excavation of that dirt?
Yes, at the time of when the tanks were removed, there was excavation done and the tanks were closed in accordance with the NJDEP regulations. So it is only the residual impacts from the spill, and it's more targeted towards the groundwater actually.
So it's strictly limited right now the groundwater.
Groundwater, and also in some areas around the tank.
Where the tanks
So,
were.
yeah.
And I'm assuming you're an LSRP?
My firm, there's an LSRP from my firm, yeah.
What's the reporting requirement now? You just, everything goes straight to the DEP, correct, at this point? Once it's tagged an environmental concern, you have so much time to remediate the issue?
Yes, as specified under the new NJDEP Site Remediation Reform Act, the remedial investigations were completed in May of 2014, and you have a 5-year window to implement remedial actions and basically achieve site closure.
Last question, so there's still some work that has to be done, and that's what this contract's about?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Freeholder Jones?
Madam President, I'm concerned, I was thinking in terms of the removal of those tanks came before us at a previous meeting. And I was assuming that when they removed the tanks, of course, they took care of the contamination. Could you or anyone explain as to the process and why it was not clean and a complete job, as opposed to removing it and then coming back 4 or 5 months later for the residue and contamination? Seemingly, it's like you're creating work.
Okay. Mr. Polavecchio, Mr. Chilala?
I think there's Freeholder, I think there was a different location and different tanks in the contracts you're talking about from a few months ago. I think this is something else. I think there maybe Mr. Chilala can help me out, but I think there are multiple contracts for tanks around the county. This seems to be limited to 3 particular tanks.
Sanjeev Varghese, County Engineer. These 3 locations are different than the one we came before the board 2 months ago. Those were Bayern Golf Course, South Mountain Arena, and Orange Garage, and that is a different consultant that would support McDonald. All these tanks were removed in around 1998-2000, but we still have soil underground under the water contamination. So we still have to monitor it. It's actually going down, but we are sure that it's getting better every day. So it's mostly lab work and reporting back to the DEP. And the 3 sites which we came before the board 2 months ago is different than the 3 sites we have now.
Thank you.
Just one question to the administration. Is it possible you could give me the total number of tanks that is owned by the county, and how many have we taken care of contamination and removal?
Yes, we will provide that to you.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Freeholders, any other questions or comments? This is on an as-needed basis, or is amount not to exceed?
Yeah, it's an amount not to exceed, and the task would be as an as-needed basis.
Thank you. Okay. Please list it, and let's move to resolutions number 12 and 13. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Resolution 12, Department of Public Works, Division of Engineering, contract award to George S. Hall Incorporated, the lowest responsive and responsible bidder to provide operations and maintenance of building system at the hospital center, January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2018, amount not to exceed $6,095,757.24. Resolution 13, Department of Public Works, Division of Engineering, contract award, George S. Hall Incorporated, the lowest responsive and responsible bidder to provide operations and maintenance of building systems at the Juvenile Detention Center, January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2018, amount not to exceed $2,998,523.18.
Okay. Mr. Shalala, can you please explain?
Yes, Madam President. These contracts, I'll start with number 12. This is for the Essex County Hospital Center in Cedar Grove to maintain the building systems on a 24/7 operation regarding their HVAC, their fire access systems, boilers, electrical, mechanical. They will staff it, also do all the necessary PM and maintenance and repairs, and they are workers of Local 68. Resolution 13 is pretty much the same type of maintenance schedule, and this happens to be at our juvenile detention center. Again, it's to maintain on a 24/7 operation the HVAC systems, fire access systems, boilers, electrical, mechanicals, maintenance and repairs. They too are all members of Local 68.
Thank you. And is there a vendor present?
Madam President, we also have the representatives of GSH with us in the audience if the board has questions for them.
Good evening, Madam President. Steve Wallace with GSH Group.
Hi, good evening. Can you please explain to us?
Yes, the bid is for facility services at the hospital and the juvenile detention centre to provide Local 68 engineers 24/7 coverage, subcontracted services for fire alarm services, generator, UPS, and all backup systems.
Okay. Mr. Polavecchio?
I don't have any questions for the vendor. I just wanted to clarify something with the administrator, if I could.
Sure.
Mr. Chilella, we discussed earlier, and I also discussed with County Council, that an unsuccessful vendor made an inquiry about the successful bid, and just that, not that anything came of it, but the person was afforded a hearing, and it's correct that this vendor was judged by the county to be the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, correct?
That is correct. The hearing was requested. Hearing was conducted with the vendor that was not the low vendor. This vendor proved out through the hearing, as well as prior to the hearing, that they are the low responsible bidder.
Satisfactory to me. Thank you. And I did have a discussion earlier this morning, or late this morning, with County Council to go into that, but I'm satisfied with what I learned from her and from the administrator before the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. McInerney.
No questions, Madam President.
Freeholders? Freeholder Toro?
How do these contract amounts differ with the previous contract, if at all?
They're both pretty much what the expenses were last year. If you break it out, last year at the hospital center, it was a little over $2 million, which is pretty much what this current bid is. And at the juvenile detention center, it was around $1 million. So it's pretty comparable to last year's contract.
Thank you. Freeholders, any other questions or comments? So, George S. Hawk, Inc., just for the record, where is it located?
Steve Wallace, it's from Parsippany, New Jersey.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Parsippany, New Jersey.
Oh, Parsippany, okay. Thank you. Freeholders? Okay. Freeholder Jones?
Madam President, to the administration, now with those two particularly contract for maintenance, do we have any full-time employees in that same position at those two different institutions?
Through you, Madam President, no, they operate those plants exclusively.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Freeholders? Okay, do I have a mover and a second? Moved by Freeholder Sebold,
Second.
second by Freeholder Bobadilla.
Madam President, this is to take 12 and 13 together, correct?
Yes, it is. Take 12 and 13 together. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Bobadilla.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Gill.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano absent. Freeholder Richardson absent. Freeholder SEBOLD.
Yes.
Freeholder TORO.
Yes.
Freeholder President Timberlake.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Please move to resolution number 14.
Resolution number 14, the Office of the Prosecutor Professional Services Agreement Coordinator, SANE SART Program, Nancy Cox, December 2nd, 2015 through December 1st, 2016, amount not to exceed $59,455.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chalala, can you please explain?
Yes, Madam President. This contract is for the, out of the prosecutor's office, the sexual assault nurse examiner in their program. It'll also address the sexual assault response team in the event such action is required and needed. This program has been in operation for many years, and it's a very valuable program in Essex County.
Thank you. Mr. Polavecchio?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions, Madam President.
Freeholders? Unfortunately, things like this are needed, huh?
Unfortunately.
Do I have a mover and a second?
I'll move it.
Moved by Freeholder Bobadilla,
I'll second.
second by Freeholder Jones. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder TORO.
Yes.
Freeholder SEBOLD.
Yes.
Freeholder Richardson absent. Freeholder Luciano absent. Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Gill.
Yes.
Freeholder Bobadilla.
Yes.
Freeholder President Timberlake.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Please move to resolutions number 15, 16, and 17.
Resolutions 15, Department of Economic Development, Training and Employment, Division of Training and Employment, contract with Essex County College to provide basic skill high school equivalency test prep program for out-of-school youth, a second-year option, amount not to exceed $112,020. Resolution 16, Department of Economic Development, Training and Employment, Division of Training and Employment, authorization to enter into individual training agreements with vendors under the approved State of New Jersey eligible training providers list, January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2016, amount not to exceed $5,500,000 grant funding. Resolution 17, Department of Economic Development, Training and Employment, Department of Citizen Services, contract award to Scooble, the lowest responsive bidder to furnish and deliver and install maintenance of a time and attendance machine via white clock system for employees, amount not to exceed $197,523.25.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Shaw, can you please explain 15 and 16? And then 17, why is the administration asking for formal action?
Certainly. 15 is to address 70 students for educational enhancements that will be conducted at our Essex County College, and they will be providing assistance to improve and upgrade basic skills, including language, writing, reading, and math, as well as college prep classes in math and English. This contract period, it is basically the same funding as last year. Resolution 16, the county receives federal dollars from the state to provide for individual vocational and educational programs for eligible customers. This particular program is administered by Department of Division of Training and Employment. The program operates that it's a client-directed program. The client will visit our 50 South Clinton facility, will view the various schools that are approved by the state of New Jersey. They will have the opportunity to research those schools. They will then make a request for tuition for those schools. They are allowed a maximum up to $4,500 for that tuition. So whether they choose ABC truck driving school or EFG, it's strictly the client's request, and this money goes to fund those training dollars. Resolution 17, we're asking for action on this item tonight, is the current time and attendance system is on its last leg and it's failing as we speak. This new system is a very high-tech, sophisticated swipe card system for employees in citizen services. I do have the director, Aníbal Ramos, to explain this particular time and attendance program or project that we would like to implement. And we also have representative of the firm to go into more detail on the sophistication of this system.
Good evening, freeholders, freeholder president and members of the board. Aníbal Ramos Jr., Director of the Department of Economic Development, Training and Employment, and also the Department of Citizen Services. Via this resolution, the department is asking for freeholder approval for the development and installation of a new time and attendance system. Currently, the department is utilizing Time Tracks, which is an outdated system that does not generate for us the kind of summary of time reports that are useful for management and also for the county administrator's office. Secondly, the time clocks that are connected to this Time Track systems are no longer manufactured. So we do have situations where some of these clocks go down. We have a limited number of clocks and parts in inventory. It's a very paper intensive system, so when employees request time for vacation or sick time, it is all done via paper. And in the bid that was put together through the Office of Purchasing in collaboration with the Office of Human Resources, we envision a system that's not as paper intensive, that allows employees to actually request time off electronically. This uses a new hand scan technology, which is utilized by many federal agencies. I know Mr. Weiner did, we did have a presentation of this proposed system with the unions, and one of our unions did express some concern regarding the sanitary nature of these hand scan clocks, and the developer of the system is here, and he has provided some information, and then we did offer to install hand sanitizers with all the clocks as a way to offset some of the concerns. And one of the things that we really do like about the system is that it does empower employees to have access to real-time information as far as accrued time is concerned. I have employees that are outstationed that do inspections on a daily basis. This would enable them to clock in their time electronically via an app, and it would provide me with a GPS footprint of where that employee was at that particular time. So there are a number of features that we believe will be useful not only for management of the department, but in particular for the employees. This system has a capacity to issue employee alerts in case of a delayed opening during inclement weather, which historically has been a challenge for the department and the county. So we're excited about having this new system in place. Beyond just a simple time and attendance system, I think it's going to be a very good management tool for our staff, and I do appreciate the freeholders' consideration of this item.
Thank you. Mr. Polavecchio, any questions?
I don't have any questions, Madam President.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions on this one, no.
Okay. Freeholders? Freeholder Jones?
Madam President, resolution number 16, in terms of the $5.5 for training. The only thing is basically a comment that I'm going to make. With those for persons who receive public assistance, I was told, most of them when I speak to them, it's always about health aides. And those type of jobs, you will always stay into poverty. The only thing I'm saying to the training, and it's good, but we need to find different trades that makes a decent amount of money that these people can live on it and be independently. And from what they have told me, talking to some of the clients, they don't even make just barely minimum wages. So how can you help yourself with children? you want to move forward and be independent to get out of the system, and the occupations or the skills that is offered is really, is not, I don't know if it's realistically, if it's the right word, to help, to empower them to move forward so others can be helped and they can be more into the system of paying taxes. But the way it is just perpetuating poverty by training people to never to be able to succeed. This is basically what I'm saying. So it's just one of the concerns, and hopefully you look in terms of non-traditional trades. I remember the vocational school was trying to get girls and boys to go into public works and PSE&G, the telephone company, climbing the poles, doing some longshoremen. Jobs like that, they are union jobs and they pay a pretty decent amount. And I just think that, you don't have to have a college degree, but if you're interested in your physical, women can do the same jobs as men. So if you would look in terms of trying to work that type of exposure and try to help those who needs assistance to move forward and to become working middle class. Thank you.
Through you, Madam President, I couldn't agree with Freeholder Jones more. I do believe that we do have a responsibility and opportunities to provide training for our clients in a wide range of different areas. The funding that you're considering here tonight is actually, it's essentially a voucher program. The federal government through the state provides us little pockets of funding to train individuals that are on public assistance. Majority of the funding that you're approving tonight is actually for individuals who are unemployed and underemployed. And the Division of Training and Employment is the actual manager of this program. So the client comes into the center, sees an employment specialist or employment counselor. That person does an eligibility assessment of the client. That person is tested, and then the client is the one that kind of directs what kind of training activity they're interested in, and we pay based on the fact that that particular vendor or school is on a state approved list, and there's a rate that's approved by the state of New Jersey, which we essentially pay out of this pot of funding. So what I will do through the administrator's office is give you a summary of the different kinds of training programs that we have paid for out of the individual training accounts in 2015. We know the year's not completed, but we can provide you with some real-time report that'll highlight the kind of training activities that we fund out of this pot of money.
Well, Madam President, I would say to the administration, since I understand what you're saying, but just look in terms of non-traditional types of occupations, that people who are receiving stipends or whatever it is through the county, that maybe they may want to come in and take apprenticeship, training these people so they are able to function and become independent.
Freeholder Toro?
I have a question for 16 and one for 17. For 16, I've met with your management team where they've expressed that they're really working towards having better vendor relationships and more open communication for better performance outcomes in job placements, right? And I was looking through the contract. I'm wondering, is there any language in the contract in regards to that currently?
For the individual training accounts, there are benchmarks that are set up, so the vendor is paid a certain amount upon enrollment, midpoint completion, and then there's a certain amount of money that's held back for placement activities. So we can, through the administrator's office, provide you a breakdown of the individual training accounts, the voucher program. The contracts that the Freeholder Board approved a few months ago, the class size programs, that was in response to an RFP that the division and the department issued. So we were a little bit more specific in terms of the kinds of activities that we wanted to fund. With this particular resolution, it's very open-ended, it's client-driven, and if we have a client that came in tomorrow who was eligible and tested appropriately and wanted to go to Lincoln Tech to take an automotive repair course, we would pay for that course out of this pot of money. So the department or the division doesn't dictate where that client goes. The client picks the kind of program that they're interested in via that person is eligible and is qualified based on the requirements of the school.
And for question 17, I'm just wondering, I know some locations, what are all the locations in which you're utilizing the clock system?
Through you, Madam President, every division within our 2 departments will be utilizing this time and attendance system. We're essentially piloting it on behalf of the county. It's 1,400 plus users, which is the number of employees that we have between the 2 departments. And in addition to the new technology, we're going to have other outlets available for employees to be able to clock in and out, and to also request time off, vacation time. We have kiosks that are going to be set up in the various divisions in order to assist employees in that process as well. So we're actually going to have more outlets of technology available to our employees, in addition to them being able to access in real time how much sick time they have, comp time, vacation, and for them to be able to request electronically time off.
Madam President, so 50 South Clinton would be one of them, right? Rector Street would be another location?
Through you, Madam President, 18 Rector Street, 50 South Clinton Street, Housing and Community Development up at Kipps Castle, the Essex County Juvenile Detention Center. I have staff that's assigned over at the Gibraltar building that works with the courts for the Youth Services Commission. All those, every staff member within the Department of Citizen Services and the Department of Economic Development, Training and Employment will be required to adhere to this new system.
Freeholder Bobadilla.
Tonight we had the pleasure of honoring some really great citizens from Essex County and through the Valor Awards, and I was late because I was in New York City coming back from a forum on funders, and clearly the conversation was as follows. Cosmetology, it's nice, and I know that these are driven by the clients themselves, but I think we need to do a better job to steer these individuals to things that are in the middle skills range, because the whole conversation, about a whole pool of funders who have been giving more than $300 million to the United States for just jobs alone, they said we're not filling in the gap. And I understand that you guys are doing a great job, but I think we need to steer these clients into something that's going to make them self-sufficient, contribute to the well-being of their families, and contribute back to their community. And I think we're falling a little bit short on that. And that's not just happening here, that's happening everywhere, and that was the topic of the conversation. And on item 17, does this time and attendance, is this strictly time and attendance and not payroll?
Through you, Madam President, one of the features that the system, I'm going to answer your last question first, and then I'll revert back to your first question. But one of the features of the system is that it can tie directly to our payroll system. So it generates a summary of time report for that employee for a particular payroll period, and when the specifications were put together through purchasing, what we were looking for was a system that could feed directly into payroll. So the system does have that capacity. And just going back to your previous comment, again, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think when you see the report for 2015 related to the kind of training activities that we're funding using individual training accounts, I sign all of them, right? They have to come to my desk for approval. It's a requisition. I can't recall more than a handful, out of hundreds that have come to my office recommending a client to go to a particular cosmetology program. So that represents a very small amount of the referrals that go out for these accounts. But they are client driven, and our counselors do recognize that we want to place people in programs that are high demand, or we want to encourage them to pursue those careers. But I will definitely get a report out through the administrator summarizing the kind of programs that we funded in 2015.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Freeholders, any other questions or comments? Thank you, Director Ramos, for coming to explain Do I have a mover and a second?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Moved by Freeholder Sebold, second by Freeholder Toro.
And Madam President, this is for Resolution 17.
Yes,
Right.
strictly for Resolution 17.
Correct.
15 and 16, please list. 17, roll call, please.
Freeholder Bobadilla. Yes. Freeholder Vice President Gill.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Jones.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Richardson, absent. Freeholder Sebold.
Yes.
Freeholder Toro.
Yes.
Freeholder President Timberlake.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. Let's move to resolutions number 18 and 19. Please read.
Resolution 18, Department of Administration and Finance, Office of Purchasing, authorization for Essex County participation in the Bergen County Cooperative Pricing System Date of Award through January 21st, 2018. Resolution 19, Department of Administration and Finance, Office of Purchasing, contract with West Publishing Corporation to provide Westlaw research data and related library materials for all Essex County using agencies January 22nd, 2016 through January 21st, 2017, amount not to exceed $500,000.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw, can you please explain?
Resolution 18 is another avenue the county has to purchase goods and services and obtain the best value and compare prices. There is no cost to be a member of this cooperative, and many times we'll take a look to see if our bid prices, if it's worth going out to bid or if it's cheaper to purchase the goods or services off this cooperative. The county currently belongs to Morris, Somerset, as well as the Middlesex Regional Co-ops. Resolution 19 is the Department of Administration, a contract with West Publishing Corporation to provide for Westlaw research data as well as related library materials for all of Essex County using agencies that include the correctional facilities, the county's counsel's office, the prosecutor's office, the clerk's office, surrogate, as well as the freeholder's office. This is the same cost as last year.
Thank you. Mr. Polavecchio?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. McInerney?
Comment on 18, that this is merely an option that we have, much like the state contract process. We can look to these different cooperatives to see whether or not they're more competitive than what we're seeing out on the marketplace, and if so, we're able to utilize it. Madam President, are you asking for comments on 19 as well?
Yes.
My comment on 19, are we digitized now with all our law? Are we still dealing with a lot of paper or a lot of books? And is it basically up and running on computers?
If I could ask our Deputy County Counsel, Grace Spencer. Oh,
I'm with West Publishing. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I mean,
I like that. You just stepped right on up. State your name and affiliation for the record.
I've never been to one of these, so I'm not sure.
No, listen, that was good.
Yes, I'm sorry. Alex Ospina with West Publishing, and thanks for having us. We supply the company, as you mentioned, the countywide, with the online service Westlaw, the law books that many agencies also have in hardback, the correctional facility, which is getting all of their books electronically. You mentioned a few of the names, the county surrogate, the prosecutor's office, sheriff's office, and
is there a duplication between what's online and what is in hard copy?
there can be in some instances. There are researchers who prefer book format as opposed to online.
So you might have some people that'll look at the book, yet that still is something they can get online.
Yes, there are offices that have books and not online. There are offices that have online and not books.
And there's offices that have both? Or?
There are offices that have both.
Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you consider the online is packaged to be customized to what your needs would be. So, for example, if you had an online plan that gave you access to cases and statutes, but in book format you had access to the New Jersey Practice Series, you would have both books and online, but they wouldn't necessarily be the same thing.
So it's not a question of duplication, it's a question that some offer some different information than others offer.
Correct.
As well as some people still like to open a book and read it as opposed to.
That is correct.
online. That I understand.
Thank you. Freeholders, any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, please list it. Mr. Chalola, I have a question regarding our last meeting. There was a vendor who was doing the bridges, in which I specifically asked today that they would be here to explain. We did, as a courtesy, vote on the resolution. Is that gentleman here to explain the function of the bridge? Because last time apparently he was sick and he sent his wife.
That's correct, Madam President. I know we did make the request to the engineer to make sure the invitation was extended. I did not follow up on that request other than my last request from our last meeting, but I will follow up first thing in the morning that his appearance is required.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chalola.
You're welcome.
Let's move to accommodations number, please list 18 and 19, move to accommodations 20 through 25 and read.
Okay. Accommodation honoring Hyde Park Gardens Cooperative Corporation on its 80th anniversary, sponsored by acclamation. Accommodation honoring Dolores Griffin Kuntz as she is recognized by the East Orange Women's Alliance during their annual scholarship luncheon, sponsored by Freeholder Timberlake. Resolution 22, accommodation honoring the First Baptist Church of South Orange in celebration of its 120th anniversary, Saturday, November the 28th, 2015, sponsored by Freeholder Timberlake. Resolution 23, accommodation honoring Raul Lopez on his 78th birthday, sponsored by Freeholder Bobadilla. Resolution 24, honoring Gloria Tisdale Butts on her 80th birthday, sponsored by Freeholder Timberlake. And Resolution 25, honoring the 7th annual Thanksgiving Day Break Bread with You ceremony, sponsored by Freeholder Richardson.
Thank you. Please move to accommodations 27 through 36 and read.
Resolution 27, accommodation honoring Essex County Sheriff Armando Fontoura, Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders 2015 Valor Award Ceremony, sponsored by Freeholder Timberlake. Accommodation honoring Evelyn Fonseca Ruiz, Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders 2015 Valor Award Ceremony, sponsored by Freeholder Bobadilla. Resolution 29, accommodation honoring Officer Ron Thorward, Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders 2015 Valor Award Ceremony, sponsored by Freeholder Luciano. Resolution 30, accommodation honoring Sergeant Tyrone Williams Jr., Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders 2015 Valor Award Ceremony, sponsored by Freeholder Gill. Resolution 31, accommodation honoring Chief Michael Chase, Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders 2015 Valor Award Ceremony, sponsored by Freeholder Jones. Resolution 27, honoring Detective Shay Carter, Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders 2015 Valor Award Ceremony, sponsored by Freeholder Toro. Resolution 33, accommodation honoring Sergeant John T. Drum, Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders 2015 Valor Award Ceremony, sponsored by Freeholder SEBOLD. Resolution 24, accommodation honoring Detective Silas Smith Jr., Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders 2015 Valor Award Ceremony, sponsored by Freeholder Richardson. Resolution 35, accommodation honoring Deputy Chief Ronald Parham, Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders 2015 Valor Award Ceremony, sponsored by Freeholder Johnson. Resolution 36, accommodation honoring James W. Stewart, Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders 2015 Valor Award Ceremony, sponsored by Freeholder Johnson.
Okay. Freeholders, any questions or comments regarding those accommodations? Okay. Please list them. For resolution number 26, Madam Clerk, I just received.
Resolution 26, Madam President, I think that there's a need to pull this because there has to be a revision on the document.
Okay, thank you. We will pull it and place it back on at a later time. Please read resolution number 37.
Madam President, Resolution 37 recognizing the Syrian refugee crises and affirming Essex County as a place where all are welcome. There is a revision on sponsorship. It should be sponsored, co-sponsored by Freeholder SEBOLD, Vice President Gill, and President Timberlake as co-sponsors for this resolution.
Okay. Freeholders. Freeholder SEBOLD.
Thank you very much. I first read about the fact that Passaic County passed a resolution which was very much similar to the one that we have on the agenda for tonight. They were the first county to do so, and we are doing it soon after they did. I don't know if we're the second or there are more counties in New Jersey have done so. I think it's very, very important. We are all refugees. This country was founded, founded is the wrong word. This country, the people who lived in this country were American Indians. They were here. And people came in from Europe. And through the years, people came from all over. My grandmother came here when she was 16 years old. She came by herself. She was fleeing Russia and the Tsar and the pogroms. My grandfather came here too, the same way, and they met here in the United States and married. I think all of us are refugees in one form or another. And there was a very long article in the Star-Ledger written by Tom Moran about a woman who came here by boat in 1939. She was actually on the way to Cuba with 937 other people. They were turned away by Cuba. Then they were turned away by the United States. She finally ended up in England. 1 in 4 of the passengers on that ship were killed by Hitler. She made it to the United States. Her name is Ruth Mandel, and she's now director of the Eagleton Institute of Politics at Rutgers University.
Very cool.
There is one statement from the article that I'd like to read. Once the fear simmers down, then maybe more Americans will see the refugees as people and even hear an echo of their own family experiences. I think that applies fully to this resolution, and the resolution fully explains what the refugees will have to go through once they get to America. And she talks about the fact that they first must endure a 2-year process full of security checks, personal interviews with FBI agents, fingerprints, photographs, and so on. Terrorists look for easier paths of entry, almost always by getting a visa, as the September 11th attackers did. And I think we all need to remember all of this as we accept refugees into this country, because we are all refugees at one time in our family history. Thank you.
Thank you. Freeholder Jones.
I'm going to concur with Freeholder SEBOLD, but my foreparents didn't come from Europe, and they were not refugees, they were slaves.
That's correct.
A Holocaust of over 5 million Africans.
Right, you're right.
And I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, make sure the history is correct. we are still suffering the causes of slavery in our community. So I do agree with you and what people who from Europe and they're refugees, but I just wanted for the record that we were not brought here in New York or New Jersey harbor. We were brought in Georgetown by the hundreds of thousands. And
thank you for saying that.
millions
That's
had
important.
died over the Atlantic
Right.
Ocean. So with that, I agree with her, and I feel sorry as to what is going on in Europe and well, I guess North Africa, because there's no such continent as Middle East. So I am just saying that if they come, we will welcome them as an American. I am truly an American. That's the only home that I know. So if the government say fit to allow them to come in, I'm quite sure all good Americans will embrace whomever, because they're all God's children and they're human beings.
Thank
you. Freeholder Bobadilla?
If I can be added to that resolution, Madam President? Thank
Absolutely.
you. And also, I have a comment.
Yes.
You know, right now, I've been involved in this campaign to allow undocumented immigrants have access to a state driver's license. And the most resounding argument against it is it's not the fact that they're going to make the highway safer. It's not the fact that we're going to have premiums probably reduced in the state. It's not the fact that people behind the wheel will be vetted to drive. The most resounding argument against it is that they're worried about these individuals being terrorists. And like I said before, you know, the assembly, I said, look, as long as I'm alive and we're alive, there's going to be terrorism. There is no proof that allowing an individual to drive, have access to drive, and a conditional license, which cannot be used for travel, is a correlation with that individual or any of those individuals committing a crime of terrorism. As we witnessed today, you know, in the news and throughout these past incidents here in the United States, is most of the incidents that have been acts of terrorism in the United States have not been committed by this population. And again, I gotta really acknowledge the effort by our Freeholder Gill and yourself on how gun control really needs to be the issue. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Freeholders? Freeholder Vice President Gill?
Thank you, Madam President. Wanted to, did not know, but we were working on it at the same time, and thank Freeholder SEBOLD and concur with everything that she said and agree wholeheartedly about it. I would just add two points that I think are important. One, when I read about what Passaic County, the action that Passaic County undertook on their board in terms of their resolution, it was in direct response also to our governor, who said that, who wrote a letter to our president saying that he would not assist any federal agencies in accepting Syrian refugees here in New Jersey. He also, during the course of that time, or during the course of a radio interview, said that he wouldn't even allow a 5-year-old orphan to be resettled in the state of New Jersey. So you don't want to over-politicize, but there are politics involved when we have the leader of our state who has taken that position publicly. I was hoping that we could do this by acclamation. I understand that we have disagreement on the board around this issue, but clearly, to me, that type of statement is inconsistent with the values that I think we hold here in Essex County at the bare minimum. And I hope that this resolution supports the efforts in Passaic County, echoes everything that Freeholder SEBOLD mentioned, and sends a message across the state that we're better than that, and we don't support that type of rhetoric or policies. I would also just mention, to your point, Freeholder Bobadilla, that today we have another mass shooting in this country. There have now been more mass shootings in the United States than, or there's one a day. Actually, an average of 1+ a day mass shooting a day in this country. Nearly all of them, committed by folks who have access to weapons, but also important to highlight, again, our thoughts and prayers are with those families, and not to politicize, but the first thing that the chief of the San Bernardino Police Department said today was that it was an act of, that this incident was an act of domestic terrorism.
That's right.
Was the first thing that he made a point to say. So all that leads me to believe that we should be, one, advocating for those policies, and two, using our bully pulpit to stand up to people who want to advocate policies that are inconsistent with the history of this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Freeholder SEBOLD.
Thank you. I would like to thank Freeholder Jones for making sure that all of us remember the slavery that was brought to this country. I was remiss in not mentioning that when I talked about the refugees, and thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
Freeholder Toro.
If I may be, please add it to Resolution 37. And quick comment is that, you don't take a whole ethnic group and judge them based on a few bad persons. And I, for myself, grew up in South Patterson, where many of my classmates were from the Middle East. And, it's not surprising to any of my colleagues, I'm sure. A human being is a human being, and we all bleed red.
That's right.
And we all deserve to live in peace and have a supportive community. So therefore, I am full support that Essex County welcome all persons. Thank you.
Thank you. Freeholders.
I'd like to be added to the list also.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to be added? Freeholder Jones. Okay.
I have a comment.
Freeholder Luciano.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say that I appreciate you meeting with me before the meeting. I wanted to just go on record to the other freeholders here in the chambers that I have a lot of respect for all of you, and about every single word of your comments is very heartfelt, and I feel that, especially Freeholder SEBOLD, we're all either immigrants ourselves or products of immigrants. And while I affirm that Essex County is a place where all people are welcome, it's just my feelings that Essex County is also a place where people have difference of opinion. And I represent a district of a lot of folks that walk all different types of life from all places of the earth and have different opinions. And for me, when I see this resolution, I can feel a sense of, why I should support it, but I also feel that this is something that, in my opinion, is non-binding and has absolutely nothing to do with Essex County government. So rather than put myself in a position to vote one way or the other, I'm just going to be a present not voting at all, because I do respect the political opinions of people on both sides of the aisle. And at this point, I'm just not comfortable even getting involved or expressing my opinion on this. So I hope that I can gain the respect of the other freeholders to understand that I'm not voting on this, period, and that, I'm sorry that I ruined it by acclamation. And I just wanted to put that on record. Thank you, Madam President and freeholders.
Thank you. Freeholders? Well, I do think that although we are, this county that exists within a state, that exists within a country, it seems as if, that we would have such a small say in this and it would have nothing to do with it. However, whenever we have a governor who has spoken publicly and is actually running to be president of this United States, who is the governor of the state, commenting and weighing in about what he will and will not accept, I do believe that it is the place of a county within that state to make it be known to the governor that we are not in agreement with that statement. Statement is rooted in racism. This is a nation made up of immigrants, as well as those who were brought here against their own will. And to exclude an entire ethnic group based off of religion or pigmentation of skin, not rooted in fact, to make a hasty generalization about an entire group of people and to deny children is absolutely disgusting. We have a lot of domestic terrorism that exists. The guy that shot up Planned Parenthood the other day, I don't think he was from Syria. Charleston, South Carolina, that church shooting, I don't think he was from Syria. And as it would be wrong for us all to make a hasty generalization about the demographic of those two shooters that I just named, it is equally as wrong to make a hasty generalization regarding those from Syria. So I'm proud to serve with you all when it comes to passing resolutions like this, because I do think that they have meaning. And even if they do seem insignificant, I don't think that they are. And I'm proud to be the president of this board and to serve with all of you. You all make me proud too. So with that said, please list it, Madam Clerk. Those who would like to be added, please add it. Thank you, Freeholder SEBOLD. Thank you, Vice President Gill. And thank you, everyone. Are there any report board committees? Any legislative reports? Any written communication? Any unfinished business? Any new business to discuss? Now I'd like to open up back for public comment session. If there's any member of the public wishing to speak on any issue at all, please come forward, state your name and affiliation for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak, monitored by the clock to my right.
Eduardo, citizen again. I want to thank Freeholder SEBOLD for bringing up a question, but I applaud Libby Jones for bringing back the facts. One of the things about people coming from Europe into America and compared to how we got into America was only the color of our skin.
That's right. Pigmentation.
That's the only thing. They took that and built a society of prejudice, racism, and torture. I have one thing to ask this Freeholder board. In what language does a newborn baby cry? And again, if the Star-Spangled Banner represents what we're thinking about, Keyes wrote it. This is the land of the free, but it's also the home of the slave. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wadud. I don't think it's necessary to respond in writing on that one. But it was good. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak at this time?
Douglas Freeman, Southport, 44th District Leader, P.O. Box 4252. I'd like to ask you, Madam Freeholder, about Resolution 16. How many minority-owned businesses do we vendor as training purposes up under that resolution? I would like to have some type of clarity on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman, and we will respond to you in writing, as is our practice. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak at this time?
Hardy Freeman, 134 Vassar Avenue, Newark, New Jersey. I would like to commend Freeholder Jones for what she said, because a lot of things keep passing by, and then it happened that get written out of history. In Fayetteville, North Carolina, they've been trying to tear the slave house down. They still hadn't got enough of a resolution or enough of votes to get rid of that disgusting place. Right in town, Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I'd like to commend her for what she said. A lot of people don't know about Black Friday. They think it's to go out and shop. But Black Friday, on Thanksgiving, the slave owners, they had the turkey dinners. Other people did too. But on Good Friday, I mean not Good Friday, Black Friday, they would go out and take the slaves to town, and they would bid on them and get the cheapest, they buy them for the cheapest price they could get. So that's where the Good Friday comes from. But I don't say don't go shopping, but at least know why you were shopping on Black Friday. And I'll make one note about the county tanks. I didn't hear nobody mention about whether those tanks was secured for us leaking, were they leaking or not leaking. Because I worked for oil company for 24 years and 7 months. 1 quart of benzene, which is in gasoline, will it take 40 years for it to dissipate 1 gallon of benzene. So if it's running through the earth or running to the nearest lake, it's going to be there a while. So that part is serious. I didn't hear anybody mention about the testing or what they found, but I'm saying for public record that one quart will last 40 years before it dissipates. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Freeman. Are there any other members of the public wishing to speak at this time? Okay, Madam Clerk, let the record reflect no one else is wishing to speak at this time. Now we're open to have a freeholder comment session. Freeholder Toro.
I'd just like to once again thank the administration for putting together a public safety meeting with the Assessing Park Conservancy new leadership, where we had our sheriff and a few members of the Sheriff's Department, the East Orange Police, and the Bloomfield Police all present in that meeting, listening to the residents' concerns and discussing, how we can make it safer. They installed a surveillance camera, and all 3 departments collaboratively worked out a new schedule so that the police could be present and monitoring the safety of Assessing Park. So thanks again.
Thank you. Freeholders, any other questions or comments, or?
I just want to say, Madam President, is that to the staff, you did an excellent job this evening, and we truly appreciate your hard work and professionalism. And to Nicole, who is one of the staffers of that office, I was at town hall today at on first floor when they honored her for her excellence as a professional, and congratulations. And what was said was absolutely true. And Freeholder SEBOLD gave you a very good presentation to the public as to what type of person you are and what a good professional you are, and continue to keep up the good work.
Yes. Thank you, Nicole, and congratulations. Freeholders? Okay, motion to adjourn?